Instagram, go live. All right, Kev. It says we are live on Instagram. It says we are live on YouTube. Thanks for joining me this Sunday, Kev.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I really like
to sit down with you on a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, it's honestly good to sit down with you anytime, and I've realized that about our audience as well, that they're my people because business owners are a little bit more crazy, I think. In the recent years, I've moved to Colorado, so I've kind of had to reestablish, friends and people, and just to both communicate with here locally for business, but also just to spend time with and just get that human community connection. And I've met some great people. And we went out and celebrated someone's birthday the other night, and I was all jazzed to talk about business and productivity and what hacks people have gotten throughout life or throughout their days over the last couple months to help them improve on their goals or whatnot. And they just aren't interested in talking about any of that stuff. There's a lot of stuff about TV shows and gossip, and it's all about what matters to them about a quality life. And there's good stuff in there about family and friends from them as well. But it takes a special breed to start a business and to really dedicate yourself and then say, I cannot go back to the old way. Like, I want everything resting on my shoulders. So I want to say thank you to everyone out there who's watching and been a part of this community, because I really feel like this is a place to home and to call home and feel like myself. So thank you for taking the time this Sunday. And I like this live format as well. We're going to continue to try to improve this, make little upgrades every time we're able to do this. And hopefully we'll be able to make some improvements that'll make this a bit more interactive as well. So Kevin, without any more delay, how are things at Pave It Forward? It's been about 3 weeks since we've sat down and recorded a podcast, which is honestly about 3 weeks since we sit down and talk at large depth about a lot of things, especially now that the season is up and going. So how are things there in Kentucky, and what do things look like for your paving company?
Yeah, man, that's being that it's been 3 weeks, that's typically a pretty good indicator of how things are going, or at least how the activity is going. Man, it's been full throttle. It's been busy. I'm in this now that we've got some data from last year. I find myself in this comparison to where we were at this time last year, how we were doing, how many days we were working, what kind of revenue we had produced, what kind of revenue we had under contract. And it's been incredible just to watch and be a part of it. And because we're blowing things out of the water from where we were just a year ago. I mean, we've already almost produced close to, we're about, I don't know, 80-90% of halfway produced of what we did all of last year, all of 2024. And we're legit just 4 or 5 weeks into the season. We're just now, going to roll the calendar over to May here this upcoming week. And it's and as far as what we've got under contract, we've basically sold, produced and or sold as much as we did all of last year. I mean, we're about at 90% of what we did for all of 24. So it's the activity is way up. The business is growing. We're feeling those growing pains, and I said it. I've been saying it since at least the end of last year, and certainly over the winter. And as we got into planning and preparation and discussions about what we wanted 2025 to look like, and I said it. I've said it for a long time in my career, and I continue to say it, and I continue to believe it. It's like sales will solve everything, and right now it's. And then also there's another piece to that. Sales will solve everything is sales will break and destroy every system, process, procedure you think you've got in place relative to what you did, the prior year or historically. And it's starting to break the things that we have in place that work just fine in we started this business in June, July of 2023. Like I said, it was very much just a part-time. I think we did 16 or 18 jobs in 2023. Last year we did about 85 jobs, and we've already got 40 on the ground this season. So, and it's everything, and it was busy last year, and things worked, and we were able to get to all our consumers in a timely fashion, to follow up with the inbound leads, get people a proposal, answer their questions, walk them through the sales process, educate them, and then be able to perform the work. And now with just the influx of inbound activity, word of mouth is really starting to come to fruition again, for myself personally and for the business. And then just all the things that you and I have been, we sat down a little over a year ago and said, this is the plan, this is how long it's going to take. You kind of wonder in that first year, when are the things going to start to happen? But we know if we continue to do the right actions day in and day out, whether that be from you on the marketing side and SEO side, and getting us more visible to the community which we serve, from that side to responding from a sales side, and then to showing up on the production side and offering the exact same experience we talk about when people find us online, all the way through the process. It really starts to incrementally or exponentially, ramp up the trajectory and growth of the business. So we're busy, we're experiencing growing pains, and it's making us starting to think about, looking at all the systems and processes that aren't really working as well as they were just even a few weeks ago, and starting to make some adjustments, and possibly some additions and changes in the way we operate, and who we operate with, and what our company's structure looks like. So it's
do you mind diving into, especially my first thought was in the field, because it sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're kind of already at last year you tried to fill 2 to 3 days worth of work per week. So
Yep.
it sounds like that's where you're at now. So I'm curious about specifically internally, maybe with your small team, like what some of those systems are that are being affected, or maybe some of the changes that you're noticing. Is it just because it's a new year and we need to brush up on things, or is it because of that pressure you talked about on the sales side?
No, it's the pressure, and it's like I said, we did 80, I'll just call it 85 jobs all of last season. We've already produced and have under contract about 75. So, I mean, we're just 10 jobs shy of what we did in an entire season, all of last year. And so, and there were gaps last year that allowed me to catch up, from a business owner's standpoint, from an admin standpoint, from a sales standpoint, where I could work on the business or work on sales, or have time to get bids done and estimates put together and proposals back to people. And now the influx of work, I mean, we were lucky last year. We were kind of able to pick and choose, what made sense. We're going to work 2 days this week because it logistically makes sense. We're going to work, and there were some weeks last year, and sometimes weather affected this, and sometimes we just needed. A lot of the times last year, we would run ourselves out of work. Like, we need to call a timeout for a week and let me go sell some more work, and then we can get back into production. This year, we're doing, now we're working 3, 4, could probably even get to 5 days a week, and we're doing. We're kind of maximizing the production we can get out of any given, 10 to 12 hour days every time we go out now, to where we're really pushing about as hard as we can. And from a production standpoint, we've got a lot of the same guys back. We had another guy join the team last week who I think, who's owned his own business in the past, and has kind of been going through a tough time in life the last couple of years, and he's back on his feet. And if he can continue to maintain what we saw from him last week, he could be a huge piece to solving this puzzle in the field, as someone else who could step in kind of a management role, and be able to help Tony out there and give him some support to where I can start stepping away a little bit to where I don't have to be on each and every project to help run a piece of equipment and keep production going at the same rate we've been able to go at. And you know, there's always little tweaks and things we can do to get better and more efficient or faster without jeopardizing quality out in the field. But for all intents and purposes, man, you know, I've been doing this a long time, you know, 16, 17 seasons now. And I've seen what high production rates look like that maintain quality. And, you know, I'd say we're right there with it. I mean, if not, we're damn close. So, I mean, it's really not an efficiency thing out in the field. It's just a matter of being able to do the other things that the business is requiring now that we're experiencing the growth that we are. So, in the field's going to be fine, especially if we can keep this group together. And we're again, and this is what I kind of like to do in the spring. We are a little overstaffed, and I think it's allowing us to train. It's allowing a lot of people to do some different things and figure out who's good at what, and getting the right people in the right seats to where they're having, you know, they're enjoying their day at work and they're looking forward to coming and putting their name on things and saying, I do this. This is my job. This is my part of the process. I do it well, and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. So, you know, all those things are cool. And when we're overstaffed, it allows us to start thinking about, do we need to start a prep crew? Do we need, because we've been kind of prepping and paving our own stuff and haven't done any seal coating work yet so far. We've got several seal coating jobs under contract that we, and some of this has been rain too. Some of it has been weather. I mean, we had some massive flooding here earlier this month, and it seems that we're still getting a little bit of rain, at least a day or two a week. But you know, we've got to break off and get some seal coating work done. And it's as efficient as we are at prepping and paving our own work as one crew, there comes a point in time where we're not going to be able to keep up with the demand of the contracts that keep coming in. I mean, last year we would get contracts in and we would go to work for a week or two and we'd be almost out of work again. We've stayed at, I don't know, 30, 40, 45 jobs under contract for the last 6 weeks. Like, it just, as we get work done, more work keeps flooding in. So that funnel's staying full. And that's great. These are great problems to have. That's exactly what you ask for when you say, hey, I want to start a business, and we want to focus our efforts on the marketing side and grow this thing and become relevant in our community as fast as possible. And that's what we committed to do. And we're starting to see all that come together. So it's, and look, you know, luckily for me, I've been here a time or two, and I've felt this pressure before, and hopefully have learned enough lessons along the way that we strategically, you know, kind of know what we need to do next, or what the next steps need to look like, or you know, what does this expansion or growth or hiring in new team members or splitting into different crews, you know, start to look like. Because when you start to feel it, like I'm feeling it now, it's like, it's when you start to be like, okay, let's not just be completely reactive to this situation. Let's start having some of these proactive thoughts and ideas and strategies and implementation, so we can get ahead of this sales curve that's coming. Because it's just April, and we know historically that come summertime, come June, July, August, September, October, I mean, it should really ramp up big time. Like, people are just now really starting to think about paving, pavement maintenance, their asphalt needs. A lot of capital and commercial projects are just now starting to understand, as they've gotten through quarter 1 and halfway into quarter 2 now, what Q3 and Q4 is going to be looking like from a budget standpoint, and what kind of money they're going to be able to spend. So it's not going to slow down. So we've got to adapt and be proactive as we can to get on top of this thing, so that we can continue to deliver the same experience that I expect us as Pave It Forward, a company, a brand, an entity, to deliver to our consumer. and that's what it's all about. It's not about getting the work on the ground. It's as the phone continues to ring, are we still being, because when we stop being responsive to the new inbound leads that are coming because we're too busy trying to catch up with the stuff we've already got under contract, we're not creating a backlog anymore. People are falling through the cracks. People aren't getting the same, you know, 0 to 48 hour kind of response time and an estimate proposal in their hand, solution in their hand, you know, quick, clear, concise. So that's what we've got to focus on. How do we keep the consumer experience the same, and if not better, as this thing, you know, starts growing? So it's you get the vice cranking from a couple different angles, and it's, you know, how do we relieve some of this tension and still keep trucking on? So
Well, let's dive into that, because one side point I thought of as you mentioned this was, of course, as the marketing arm and watching the data come in through the early months, you know, I got so excited that we were just absolutely crushing our inbound goal for total number of estimates given and total number of price for those estimates. So that was great, but to have all the commercial work come in at a much sign at a much slower pace, you know, those are some of the things that you get to kind of enjoy looking at as the seasons go on. But I wanted to talk to you about, you had said that you are potentially have someone for the field to come and help that would free up a little bit of time. Was that a conscious decision that that is going to be the next position that I'm going to hire, and then there's another thing after that for you, and then there's another thing after that for you? Or are these decisions opportunity based? If that makes sense. Like, did this person come to you and you're like, that's an ideal person? Or are you like, I need to get out of the field, this is next? And if so, what is your next move after that?
man, this, well, I tell you, this is actually, so one of the new guys we hired for this season, this gentleman used to work for the guy that just came on board this week. So it's just kind of that this guy got in our culture and got to working with us for a few weeks, and look, that's where we found over the years, that's where we found some of our best people have been referrals from people who are already on the team. Because, and what you find, I mean, most people aren't going to bring someone into work that's going to let them down or make them look bad, or, you know, like if they know Joe Blow is going to show up and not really be able to contribute, or he's going to be late, or he's going to call in twice a week, or he's got whatever going on, like it's likely that those folks aren't going to get recommended. So that, I mean, it's I don't, it's funny how these things happen sometimes. I mean, obviously field management and starting to think about, uh, if we split to a prep crew, you know, 1, 2, 3 man prep crew, you know, who can run that while the paving crew, who's going to, you know, so now we've got 2 leadership positions we need out there, especially if I'm having any consideration of stepping away from the field, at least on a day-to-day basis. Now there's certainly going to be periods where I'm needed to be in the field on some of our larger stuff, and I was even doing that with the other business up until the end. I mean, that's just, you own a small business, and you want it to be worth a damn. I mean, there's different opinions on this, but I think there's always some level of involvement, whether you're the CEO or you're just a foreman, that you're going to have some level of commitment and contribution that you've got to make to that field crew. It's just, I think it evokes good culture. I think it evokes camaraderie, and you know, there's just so many things that come with that. But so this one was just kind of a blessing in disguise. Now, I mean, I'm knocking on wood. The guy's been here for a week. I've had guys that have come in and rocked out for 2, 3 weeks, a month, 90 days, sometimes even a year or two, and and then the wheels fall off. So I don't ever hold my breath, but I like, and this may be a blessing and a curse of mine, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt out of the gate. It's kind of like, you know, look, we're in good standing and we're all good until you prove me otherwise, you know. So it's, for right now, I'm optimistic, and it's exactly what we need, because it's, as a business grows, one of the biggest things I've learned is, I got to put as much as I want to do everything because it's my business or it's my vision or dream. It's like, you got to put that pride and ego aside and say, hey, there are tons of people that are better at doing this with this business than I am, or doing that with this business than I am. Where can I best serve the company as the visionary, as the leader, as the orchestra, the maestro, whatever you want to call it, and how can we get enough good people around us to make this thing really great? And finding people like we found last week, if he ends up working out, that's how it happens. Sometimes you gotta get, and that goes with that word of mouth and that brand recognition. People see, you're like, ooh. And if we continue to be who we say we are, when people find us on social or out in the community and they're like, man, I want to be a part of that. That's how it starts happening. That's how it happened the first time. And a lot of times, like I said, those things happen when you're not even really looking, so sometimes, I think somebody, upstairs or whatever's got a plan way bigger than you can figure out on your own. And sometimes those things just come into your life exactly when you need them to. And a lot of times, even when you're not necessarily looking. So that's been cool. I tell you this, as we can be as proactive and tactical as we want to be, but if anybody tells you there isn't a little bit of luck involved when you own your own business and then become successful, they're fucking full of shit. So there's definitely that aspect involved. So
absolutely, there's something about timing, and when certain people show up and come into your life. Well, I was curious about so if this person, continues to do well, that'll free you up from, if nothing else, at the very least, on the work site, you can be in your truck, you can be, moving sales along, you can be doing something like that. Is that the definite plan, to use this other person as a stepping stone? Do you have other moves in mind that, regardless if this person works out, like, I need to keep some other things going, because you're thinking about how to maximize your time? So where do you go from there, and is it all hinged upon this person working?
No, it's not. In all reality, we have a pretty kick-ass crew and group of guys before he even showed up. So, like, I already had some thoughts going and some plans, and Tony and I, we talk a lot, and I talk about it a lot on here too, to reemphasize kind of the direction and what our roles need to look like, who we are today, where we're going. So he understands the mission, and I understand the mission, and I tell you what, man, we've got the guys that came back from last year. We've got one in particular who has stepped up in a way. I knew he had it in him. Like, he had all the right characteristics and traits, and but man, he has stepped up so big so far this year. Like I'll preach this till the day I die. Like, anybody can go out there and lay blacktop and or figure out how to run a paver and do the things that we do. But like, it's the little things. It's the attention to detail. It's just taking pride in what you do day in and day out, every job site, no matter if it's the first job of the day or the last job when it's 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening and you're ready to get the hell out of there. But there's still some crumbs of asphalt on this guy's sidewalk. I'm going to go make sure I get those broomed off and his property looks good. So we've got a good group, man. We've got guys in that, other people see that kind of stuff. So it kind of elevates when you start getting a few guys around that start believing in what they're doing and caring about what they're doing. It elevates everybody else around them. And it even elevates me, because there's times, where I won't see everything, or because I can't be everywhere. Tony can't be everywhere. We start getting 3 or 4 guys behind the guys running the machine down the job that are behind you, taking an immense amount of pride in what they're doing, things get pretty fun out there and pretty cool. And that's when you start to get that feeling of invincibility that, no matter what, even when we make a mistake or even when something's not right, somebody's going to catch it. Somebody's going to bring it up, to our attention. And we're going to get it right and fix it before we move on down this project. So, if this guy ends up working out, it's truly a blessing in disguise. It's just kind of one of those. And we've got a few other people in mind that are interested in joining the team. We can't overload too much too fast. So it's kind of like we're trickling these folks in. We're continuing the sales process as it goes, building this bigger and bigger backlog of business. I mean, you saw what came in this week, and we start loading these commercial jobs on top of what we're already doing that start taking 2 to 5 days to complete. Our schedule really starts now. Those are the kind of jobs we want. Your average job size goes up. Your gross margin should go up, maybe not percentage wise, but at least volume wise. So you're getting, anytime we can pick up some extra margin to help build the infrastructure of this business, whether it be into, paying off debt or buying new equipment or upgrading. We're starting off with a lot of, I won't say older, but most everything we've got. We did buy a brand new skid steer. I think we're getting ready to take possession of a brand new paver in about 3 weeks. But most everything, as it was kind of used and, just kind of what we had to get this business off the ground. And we've got a lot of equipment. And that's a big part of our production efficiency too, is like we've got the right, because we do have enough history of screwing up, we've got the right tools for the job. So we've got dingoes and things that I've never even used in the paving business that Tony was like, let me show you how much more efficient we can be just bringing in this typically a landscaping piece of equipment into our production fleet. And man, it's, so it's those little things, how can we get better? Man, it's been a lot of fun. And so, yes, we know that strategic growth is going to happen. We're looking for the right guys, the right, there never is the right time, but there is going to come a time, and it's probably going to be very soon, where we're going to have to break a few guys off to a prep crew or even a seal crew, or, because our paving crew is going to have to be paving 4 or 5 days a week, not prepping and paving 4 or 5 days a week, because we're going to run out of days in the season, and we're going to start to lose that consumer experience. I mean, it's one thing to tell people you got a 4 to 6 week backlog, but when you start telling people it's going to be 2, 3, maybe 4 months, you're going to start losing some folks. And look, I mean, you want a contractor that's got a backlog. You don't want to call somebody and then say, hey, we can be there tomorrow to do your job. That means they don't have anything else to go do or have anything else under contract. So
it's a very good
red flag.
Health of your business.
Yeah.
Well, I have questions because obviously you have lofty goals, and you're not only thinking about this year, you're thinking about years in advance. That you're not going to make huge. I mean, obviously we have big goals, but there's just limitations to what you can do in a year. And it's a building process of building a business. You're telling me right now that your team can handle the work that's coming in at a quality level. You have some good employees ready to come in and help if needed. You're on pace to hit your goals for this year. But you're talking about bringing someone on. You're talking about potentially what it takes to add additional lines of service. And so I wanted to make that distinction now that first you have the sales and requests for service coming in. So before anything else happens, like that is kind of the key there. But the second part is that you have ambitions of continuing to build something, not just hit revenue goals. So framing that all up, there's a couple different lines of service you can get into, in order to maybe whether it be you don't have a contractor you can trust. I don't know. That's what I want to kind of ask you, is like how to decide which services are best to get into. And just quickly, if there are any more, please let me know. But obviously there's seal coating, there's pothole filling and general maintenance, there's striping, there's concrete, and I know some people do some winter stuff, maybe some street cleaning or something like that as well. But for where you're at right now and what you've observed in the past from your past companies and other companies, what does that look like for you? What are you considering in a next service, and how much of that is dependent on the relationships you have with contractors right now, and how much of that is you wanting to just bring the revenue in house?
Well, for me, man, at least for right now, I have a pretty good grasp of what we are really good at, um, and that's what I've been doing for 16, 17 years now. It's paving, pavement maintenance, which includes mill and patch, pothole filling, crack sealing, seal coating, paving, whether it be a 10-ton driveway or a 5,000-ton parking lot. Like those are kind of our bread and butter and our streamlined processes that we've got down and we're capable of doing, because it's one thing to be able to do it, but it's another thing to have the equipment and the manpower and the skilled manpower, the technical side of it, along with the equipment to match up to that, to be able to go and execute. I mean, you can have a pickup truck and a wheelbarrow and be in the pothole filling business, but it's like, can we go execute these 5,000 ton, big box store, full mill and paves? And yes, we can. So we've got that whole pavement maintenance side down. And the beautiful thing is, we're also able to offer concrete, striping, milling, which are three, in my opinion. And I figured this out, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. There was just so much demand with all these this commercial paving scopes of work. Like there was always concrete work involved. So there, sidewalks, storm drains, water retention, curb and gutter, ADA. There was just always, and like it got to the point where it's like, we can't keep telling people no, we can't do that too, because we were losing out on the paving side of that. So
yeah, because I remember that, because of $1,000 worth of concrete or something.
Oh yeah, you'd lose
job.
exactly 100%. So we're fortunate that I've still got intact, in my opinion, the best milling subcontractor our region has to offer, the best line striping subcontractor, and one of the best concrete subcontractors attached to us at the hip. So I mean, they have always answered the call. They have always showed up when they're supposed to. They always do an amazing job. So it's you got the best of both worlds. You can tell people, yes, we can do that, and I can say it in the same breath as if Pave It Forward and its company and culture and experience were going to show up and deliver that service line as well. And now we project manage most of what these subcontractors do for us. Like there's usually involvement between us and the consumer, or involvement between us and them as the job's getting executed. So there is still some spectrum of management from Pave It Forward when we bring these subs in. But for right now, especially with who we are and where we're going, I personally don't feel a need to have to bring any of that in house. We've got good enough relationships with these people that we get pretty premier pricing from them, to where we still are able to add just a little bit, enough to go out, because we're still having to go out and scope it and meet with the customer and add that line item in and insert it into our estimate. So there's some maintenance cost and expense on our end to involve them with our project, but they're super fair with their pricing, and the product and experience they bring along with them is second to none. So it allows us to offer that to our consumer, and us not to have to be heavily capitally invested, in those three line items, as a growing business, and it, I don't know if there ever will be. They're so good and so affordable and do such a good job. Will it ever make sense to bring those things in house? I don't know. Maybe. I mean, there's a ton of money to be made in milling. There's a ton of money to be made in concrete, but we've already got two of the best in town that do that as part of our team. So like, I don't know that I want to have to recreate the wheel and become, because if I'm going to offer those service lines, I've got to be just as good, if not better than they are already at doing it, or I'm going to look like a dumbass, because our quality is going to suffer. So we've got to have the right people, the right equipment, the right amount of finances to get the right people and equipment to do the job just as well as they're already doing it for us. So that's just, that's one of those, when there comes a break even point where we're doing so much milling and paving where it makes more economic sense for us to be able to go invest $1 million in a semi truck and a lowboy trailer and a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 milling machine and a $150,000 a year kind of guy that really knows how to operate that thing, to bring him onto the team, then maybe, yeah. But for now, it's we're kind of good with where we're at. I mean, right now we're focusing on how do we grow internally? How do we grow out the systems, processes, and procedures, and essentially break this 6-7 man operation from last year into a company that looks like now a couple crews with a couple leaders. Definitely more demand for admin and some of the things I've been doing, and there's definitely been more demand for a sales position in that side. So that's something we're in some very serious talks with a few people right now about, joining us on the sales side. So we've got to, like I said, for me, it all comes down to how do we keep the consumer experience as flawless as possible and as close to reality as the picture that we paint out there when they pick up the phone or click on our link and say they may want to do business with us because they've done some research and figured out who we are. So we got to do whatever it takes to keep that consistent, because when that starts to fail, that's when people go out of business. That's when you see people like, man, they came out of the gate, they looked like they had their shit together. What happened to them? Where'd they go? Well, they couldn't get back to their customers. They couldn't answer the phone. They couldn't return phone calls. They didn't get back to emails, things like that. So
when you start talking, it's always a nice balance, I feel like, with you, especially at this point in your career, because you're someone who is very ambitious with their goals, but you don't let the flashy things be the goals. Meaning, like, I think when people think I'm going to press on the gas pedal, I'm lucky enough to have the sales coming in. I'm buying equipment. I'm buying trucks. I'm going to start a new division. And what I'm kind of hearing you say is that the concrete and milling, especially, if it's almost like running a separate business. You need to make sure everything makes sense financially. It needs to have its own system, other than just having these subcontractors that can do large work or complex work, but also just make sure you get the contract, make sure the ramps are there, whatever they need with the sidewalk is taken care of. But when you talk about the striping and the maintenance side of things, I think that's kind of my next thought is, I know that trust is a big play for selling and marketing an asphalt paving company, because it's just the easiest thing to market, because no one in the industry, not a lot of people do it. But when you, where was I going with that? When you decide to take on striping or pavement maintenance yourself, I feel like you can back up that word where you're like, I am here for my commercial clients, especially, commercials and residential is a word of mouth thing. So after a year, 3 years, if your product starts crumbling, that your reputation can start to crumble too. So I noticed that you do a lot of maintenance in-house, where a lot of other companies maybe are focused on getting the full driveways, the parking lots. Can you talk to me about, you said you had the striping but you do the parking lot maintenance yourself. Can you talk about either, I guess, the mentality of what it's like taking a $400 pothole fill job and why you decide to put that in your company, as far as we don't do the small maintenance stuff.
Well, I mean, we don't do any $400 potholes.
I've seen you do a few over the years, but they've been special.
Yeah, you're right, and a lot of that goes down to relationship. A lot of it goes down to if we're, because as much as I am a businessman, and we should be doing things for profit. This isn't a hobby. There are times and circumstances where I will go do a pothole for $400 because somebody's either in a desperate situation or we're right down the road. And I just know if they call someone else, they're not going to get the same. And even if it's just filling a pothole, like there are incorrect ways to fill a pothole. If you don't clean them out and get the debris out of the bottom and put a little tack in those things, they don't last 5 minutes. But and the same thing on the maintenance side and the patching side, and we don't do a lot of residential repairs anymore. We did some last year, but again, last year we were running out of work, so we were kind of taking anything we could take. But it's a service line we can offer with the equipment we've got, with the personnel we've got, and it is something that we can do. We can do a good job. We can do a quality job. We can do it pretty profitably still. And sometimes we've only got to run, 2, 3, 4 guys out there to get some of this stuff done. We did some quite a bit of patching for Planet Fitness here just a few weeks back, and didn't have to have the full crew out there to get, it's a $5,000-$6,000 job, and we were able to get that executed. And people that rely on you to show up and do maintenance, like there's certainly different levels to that. I mean, because it just depends on how serious you take, how well do I really want to fix this pothole or this problem? I mean, we should be paving the whole lot, but we've been hired, just this is what their budget allows, and they just want to fix some of these spots. So we're gonna, whether it's a $1,500 job or a $100,000 mill and pave, we're gonna do it all at the same approach as we're gonna mill it out. We're gonna clean cut the edges. Everything's gonna have a 90-degree edge on it. We're gonna clean out the centers and blow them out and get them debris free, tack them, and then put the patch in. So and for me, that maintenance side too, man, you go in and blow them away on the maintenance side, and maybe it's just crack sealing. Maybe it's just doing some very preventative, maintenance for them. But eventually, that entire parking lot or shopping center, or they're going to own another piece of property across town, is going to need some more significant or substantial work over time. And if you show up and do a fantastic job and deliver an amazing consumer experience on a $1,500 job, they're probably going to think of you the next time they've got something larger that they need to get handled. So, regardless of job size, scope, or sales price, I mean, they're all just as important to me, because you never know who that consumer knows. And by the way, it's just the right thing to do. Like, I mean, regardless of what you may gain from doing the right thing for this consumer, no matter how big or small, like, always doing the right thing always pays dividends. The money, the growth, the business, brand exposure, reputation, it always follows. So
I think about that quote often of yours, and I'm still waiting to challenge it in some way. You can't keep doing the right things and get the wrong results.
That's right.
It seems so simple, too simple. And but it just keeps working out. If you have a plan and a desire to continue offering a service for a long time and be there, it seems to work out. Well, I'm really excited to have this chance to sit down with you in another couple of weeks, because it sounds like progress is going to kind of have to be made. There is the option to just let your backlog keep getting so long that customers will turn you down, but I don't think that's the way Kevin operates. I know personally, you would like to have a little bit more time to dig into this kind of stuff, giving more time to mentorship, developing a few more of the Asphalt operating system pieces, and as well as be the orchestrator of your business rather than the operator necessarily of sections of your business. So I'm thrilled to, first of all, be going down this journey with you and have this kind of growth. But given kind of what we have said today about making sure that you have the revenue coming and sales coming in to afford these things, whether it be on bringing on a new line of service or just anything that has to do with your most recent growth. Is there anything we didn't mention that you kind of were thinking about during our episode here?
Man, I don't believe so. And kind of piggybacking on what you just said about growth and growing the business. I mean, there's a whole other side to my life that involves a fiance and 4 kiddos too. So I mean, it's I can't, I can go 90, 100, 110 hours a week, but that leaves me very little time for anything else that brings me any amount of happiness in my life, and then I get to doing a really shitty job of taking care of myself when I get spread that thin too. So some of that is growth, some of it's a safety net, and some of it's just trying to do this a little differently than I did the first time, and got to where it was too much, and so there's a lot to it, man. But look, I wouldn't have it any other way. Like you say, you want to get your ass back in business and give this another run, and let's see if we can, let's make sure the first time we did this wasn't just luck. I got some things to prove to myself, and making sure this thing pans out, and I got a lot of belief that it will. And it goes back to what we were just talking about. It's like the next right action. Just keep doing the next right thing. The money always follows, the growth always follows, the culture always, like it all just happens. But you gotta put action into it. You gotta be proactive, and you gotta make decisions that help you not only grow in business, but not professionally, but as personally as well. So it's a big old ecosystem that's got to stay happy and kind of jive together for all this to work and work long term. I don't want this to be a 3 to 5 year run. I've got, I'm 44 years old. I got at least another 20 years in me to give this thing a go. So we want to get our foundation underneath of us and get all our our systems and our processes, procedures, SOPs, all that stuff firm before we just take off in every direction. So
love it. Yeah, that's the constant reminder of being a father, and that I always wanted to be a dad. And so when I'm busy or behind at work and family stuff calls, it's been a lesson I've had to learn myself here these last few weekends, that to remember, what's important. As simple as that. But in following up with that, we are going to be strengthening our AOS system here over the next couple months. We do have a newsletter that's out right now. If you'd like to head to asphaltoperating.com, you can sign up for that newsletter. We have another one coming out here soon. We're really enjoying that. I definitely want to thank everyone that's been supplying us questions and been interacting with us over there. And yeah, if you have a question for Kevin or I, feel free to reach out to us. Kevin here at Pave It Forward and Pave It Forward LLC. Then I'm over at Mirror Marketing as well. I'm going to be starting some content here soon under an account called Business Evolution AI. I really am loving the AI and what it can do for business. And so I'm eventually just going to do a hypothetical episode like this with you here, where I pull some of the most common complaints, or we'll say most resounding complaints through social media with research done through AI from asphalt paving business owner about their growth tips or problems within their systems. And I'd like to one time just sit down here with you and just take some of those questions and go through them live on how much this can help your business as far as just understanding SOPs and just anything that can use structure or format. So look for us to talk more about that. Kevin, thank you again for your time today. If anyone else has any questions, please reach out. Please like and subscribe. Thank you for your time, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
Yeah, sounds good, man. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin.